More to Marketing. Welcome to More to Marketing, the podcast that explores marketing, product, and everything in between. I'm your host for today, Susan, and we are talking about no-code revolution. Now, what is this? It's how to automate your business without coding. I find this a really interesting topic. I've always been a bit scared of coding myself and how much it involves. So today I've brought on a really special guest. I'm thrilled to be able to bring here right now Michael Greenberg, a pioneering voice in digital transformation and automation. As the founder of Third Brain Digital, Michael has dedicated his career to helping businesses streamline operations and maximize efficiencies through cutting-edge tools, including AI and no-code technology. With a passion for enabling businesses to do more while spending less, Michael has a wealth of experience in leveraging no-code solutions to drive impactful changes without the need for a traditional programming capability coming in, which is amazing. So today he'll be sharing his insights on the no-code revolution and how businesses can actually automate their processes, and it's not that scary, and be able to unlock some new levels of productivity and growth. So welcome, Michael.
Thanks for having me on today.
I'm so excited to have you. Please tell me a bit more about your journey and about how you came about with this gap in market that you saw for the no-code revolution.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this really all came about because over the past few years, I've been working in marketing operations and in business operations, deploying different technology solutions to business problems. And along the way, I realized that sort of the biggest thing everyone got wrong was they weren't stepping back and figuring out what was actually possible today. So that wasn't something you could sell someone. And about 2 years ago, this thing called ChatGPT took the world by storm. And that gave people a reason to actually listen. And so it comes down to this. You know that AI can help you cut costs and improve efficiency, but you don't know where to start. And so we've developed a framework for doing that, and then using no-code tools and other off-the-shelf technology in order to automate and build consistency in your business.
I love that it's about the consistency, because it's one of the things that at being innate human, we make mistakes, or we may change things and not realize the impact of it. So having a tool that helps you with that consistency, I really can see how that can help with the productivity and also with potential cost cuttings and other efficiencies as well.
Yep. And that's sort of the way I like to think about it. That's the starting point. We have to document the way something is done, so that way we can figure out what parts we can automate, what parts we can hand off to AI, what tools we have to put together in what ways. That allows us to build consistency through documentation. And then when we put everything together and integrate it, we can build more clarity, because people are doing things the same way. We can measure them the same way. And that lets us build more error detection and stuff like that. And then finally, we see that automation sort of snowball as you start to automate these little 5-minute copy paste tasks, that sort of stuff. And that turns into new capacity for your team and ultimately cash in your pocket.
I think one of the scary things for a lot of team members when it comes to thinking about automation, they forget about the new capacity they may have to do things that they've put off for so long because they haven't had the time to do it or the luxury to do it. They have that fear factor that goes in going, I'm being replaced. They're not seeing it
Yep.
as like a third arm for themselves, that in some ways they can control and train how they want to do things their way, but it gets automated for them. Have you experienced that a lot?
Oh yeah. I've actually got a little like talk that I call flowcharts without fear. How to document processes without people thinking they're getting fired.
Yep.
Um, and it really just comes down to showing them the proof and taking it slow to actually understand what they do and explaining how they can't be replaced.
Mm.
I think that last one really makes the biggest difference. It's like, oh, a human has to do that. You have to be the one to do that. Nobody else understands that thing except you. We
And
don't mention that once they've done that 1,000 times in the new system, we can train an AI to replace them.
yeah, don't say that. Definitely don't share that part.
Right. That part just goes to the CEO.
Well, you also want to make sure that your business has that human element to it as well, because humans love to still interact with humans, no matter how frustrating it may be in some cases, but we do prefer the human interactions. And that seems to be majority of people do feel that way in majority of situations.
Oh yeah. And in general, we just don't recommend like AI solutions for customer facing roles. There's a lot of legal questions that come with that sort of thing, and there's too much error potential when for 1,000, 2,000 bucks a month, you can have a human sit in front of that, and that's totally worth it.
Mm. Now, with the no code revolution, what are some of the big game changing pieces that you've seen? So you've mentioned Chat GPT. Myself, I love Write It's one of my favorite
Yep.
tools. What
Sure.
other no codes have you seen come in that have really made a difference to the everyday person like me, who is definitely not a programmer?
Yeah. So I think the biggest in the game right now is a company called Zapier. And they are sort of the first stop for automation. They are, I think, the easiest platform to get started with. They have the most options in terms of tools they integrate with. And they are rapidly developing their tech now, as sort of the race is on,
Yep.
so to speak. The next level up, sort of the slightly more advanced, and I think a little easier to use for some of the more fancy or complex stuff, is make.com. And so I first started using Make because they were really the automation platform of choice for ClickUp. But I've since found that I prefer Make for most of my automation needs. I just like the interface a little more.
That does make a difference if you're using it all the time.
Oh yeah, it's got much more of like a workflow where you can see sort of how everything goes instead of step by step like Zapier.
Yeah, I personally prefer more workflow views, because if it also has that other layer of how it connects the timings and any of those other visuals that help you know where the journey is going, I think
Yep.
that is more useful, because then it's got more detail in there as well. And you can actually see what will impact what in a better view. That's my personal view anyway.
Oh, same. That's why I prefer Make.
It's one of the things my team can talk to you about one day is flowcharts. I love them, but they need to have that added layer of detail.
Yep. Where we use flowcharts and color coding and swim lanes and all sorts of stuff when we're putting them together to make sure we effectively communicate what we want.
Definitely. And I love that your first step is the documentation of the human process, because starting there, then you can actually see where you could automate. Because a lot of businesses will probably don't know where to even start. They'll be thinking, wow, this is just so overwhelming. I don't even know where to begin. So having that starting place with the documentation, I think, is core, because not only then do you understand your business a bit better, you understand the processes and how they interconnect. And then
Yep.
you can, I'm assuming you saying start small? So start with some of those smaller 5-minute ones where you can save 5 minutes here or there and then build it out. Is that how you've seen them start?
No, not really.
No?
So at least with us, we are generally leading some sort of transformation. So there's like a business goal we are trying to unlock by doing this work. And so we come in and we'll do generally like a company or a department level audit and say, okay, we know your whole sales and marketing and customer support team, that like whole chain of the customer journey is only at a level 2. And we have this 5-level framework where level 1 is everything's in data silos and level 5 is fully AI automation. And most people are at like level 2 or level 2.5, and then sometimes level 3, which is a unified data layer. And so we're going to map everything out, and then we're going to say, hey, we need to get sales, marketing, and all of your customer data, anyone who touches that chain, we need to get everything to level 3 in there. So that way we have a full picture of the customer on hand. And then that's going to allow us to use AI to send thousands of outreach every month. And that's going to allow us to move our sales team offshore. And that's going to allow us to unlock all these other things.
Yeah, I can see how that is very powerful, using as part of the transformation of a business to their next step. So the big step change that they're looking at doing, which is consolidating costs, improving efficiencies, making sure their processes are really secure and locked down, and most importantly, the data, making sure the data is centralized. I find that a lot of companies still have a lot of decentralized data sources where they haven't actually got a centralized pool, which I find, I don't know, these days it's so easy to have one data set. I don't know why so many companies have still got them all over the place, because it makes more sense and it's usually cheaper and safer to have it all together. And you can put it into categories and security it down. So I'm still so surprised that so many people lack doing that. How would you go about making sure that people came on the journey and felt safe? So you've talked about bringing them in and talking about your fantastic flow chart discussion that you can do. But how else do you go about talking to even the C-suite to make sure they understand how important no code could be for them and the benefits that they could see?
Yeah. So C-suite doesn't care about no code. That's the start and end of it. At the end of the day, an executive cares about automation. They care about work done. They care about, it cost 1/10 the amount to build this type of project now because we can use some no-code tool to do it instead of hiring a developer. But they don't care about like the change in product design. And that's really what no code is it's just like, oh, there's a lot of things that you never needed to be able to touch if you weren't a developer. And now you can touch a lot of those things with like a drag and drop interface. And so like the executive, they don't really care that happened. They care about the secondary effects. And so for them, it's not, oh, Zapier is going to allow us to do no code automation. It's, oh, we use Zapier to automate our customer onboarding. So now we don't have to spend a day inputting everything every time.
Yeah. And I suppose it's the only thing they really now care about is that new capacity they've unlocked and what they can do with it.
Exactly. If they can take on another 2 customers without having to hire somebody, that can be a, massive gain.
Exactly. I love that. Now, I know we've spoken about a whole pile of different things where even I don't know a lot about this. That's why I've got you here. I'm loving this conversation. But what are some other misconceptions about no code that you've encountered? Particularly like the skepticism, I never say that word, around it. Are you able to debunk a little bit of that and share some of those misconceptions?
Yeah, I think they break down into two categories. One is that you don't need to know anything about technology or coding in order to use no code well. And fundamentally, like the technology hasn't changed. It's just the interface has changed that we interact with it with. And so a coder using no code tools is more effective than somebody who knows nothing about code. Having an engineer's mindset or having a process mindset, understanding what an API is, these are all things that allow you to use the existing tools better.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like part one is that yes, anyone can pick them up and use them, but to get like everything out of them, you still kind of need to know how to code. Um, and then the other side is that they aren't useful at all. It's very common that like coders will say, "Oh, no code's useless. There's no, you can just write a script that does that." Yeah, if you know how to code, you can do that. If you know how to ask Claude or Chat GPT, you can do that. But Claude and Chat GPT can't deploy that code for you. And so you're still going to end up back at a no code solution to copy paste the code wherever you need to put it. And they're really useful for allowing more people to be able to do this sort of work.
Mm. I think also that entry level as well, where you might not have gone to some kind of university or institution to learn coding, but
Yep.
you can get some hands-on experience and start learning from the bottom up. So
Absolutely.
I think that's where if you've got the mindset more of the engineer about the behind the scenes how, that helps you as well. So even though many of us are beginners, it's a starting point. And then if we open our minds up to how it could be and learning from engineers and other people who are a lot smarter when it comes to that type of thought wave, we could all grow together to make it even more important and more useful for our businesses.
Yep. I would even say like I've seen a lot of success with people who are coming from like executive assistant or virtual assistant backgrounds, often had to pick up a little bit of these tools along the way. And then they are able to take that on much more quickly than somebody who's doesn't have that process or a systems mindset.
Mm. What other kind of success stories have you seen implementing the no code automation with the businesses you've helped or other case studies you've heard of?
Yeah. So just as a like rule of thumb, when you implement an automation, it generally takes between 9 and 15 months for that automation to start producing a positive return on investment.
Mm.
So like most automations we build return in that 10 to 15% a month. So that's general rule.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in specific, we have seen like big examples where somebody might be doing meeting notes or listening to like podcast transcripts for content creation. We can cut that out and that might save somebody hours.
Mm.
We've taken like data entry, taking receipts and then putting them into a spreadsheet. And we might take that from, oh, somebody has to read every receipt to, oh, you just take a photo and you upload it to Google Drive and then an AI pulls it all out and enters it. And that might save somebody, 6 hours every day. And so those are like the extreme examples. But on average, it's, oh, you don't have to copy paste anymore.
Mm.
I like to talk about it as getting out of copy paste hell. That's like the big win.
And particularly if you forget to actually copy the next one and you've copied the last one and you don't realize you've done that mistake, you missed a whole line. It's human
Yep.
error. It's really that removing that element of human error that can really distract a lot of your data processing.
Oh, yeah. And that's like, nobody has perfectly clean data in their CRM because they've never had anyone actually keep it up to date.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that the other layer with automation and having your own agent potentially is what over time, once you train them, because they are trainable, and you can then get them to go out and source some of this and input it for you and inform you when they've done it. So I've seen some of those which look absolutely amazing. No idea where to start, but they look fantastic to be able to help businesses to be able to achieve certain goals. Like I can really see that working well for sales channels.
Yeah, I think we're probably, again, going back to that, like, don't know customer facing kind of stuff.
Oh, I'm thinking more
Most,
like scraping kind of things and getting
yeah, oh
info
yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like scraping tools, that sort of thing. Very useful even now. We see it like lead response process is a really
Mm.
popular one. So somebody submits a form that then gets enriched by scraping some other sources and allows them to write a personalized response, and they have it take like 5 to 10 minutes. So it looks like a human took a little time and researched all that immediately and then sent it. And it's just a really good way to convert those leads that are coming in
Mm.
inbound.
I think, as I mentioned, I love Write Sonic. And one of the things I love about that particular tool is uh, blog writing and being able to have, I actually prefer this one to Chat GPT because I find that it's more rich in putting more academic research within it that's accurate and makes complete sense within the context of what you're creating as well. Plus, it's now starting to do a little bit more when you're talking about web searching to bring in more rich information too. So I find that one a really good source of saving me and other people I know a huge amount of time to write articles. So instead of spending
Yep.
6 hours researching and writing a really good, rich blog article, we're now able to do it in a tiny fraction of the time and just spend time humanizing it to our own tones.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you used Perplexity?
No, I haven't used that one.
It's a really great research tool.
Ooh,
Um,
I've written that one down. I'll check that one out too. Thanks for the tip.
yeah.
Now, one of the biggest concerns, I did mention it earlier when it comes to automation and no code, companies need to really address security and data compliance issues, particularly when you have a rich amount of customer data and all the different codes and practices that come in around the world. What have you seen about this and how should people approach it as well?
Yeah. Um, I think you have to choose your technology to match the level of data security you need.
Mhm.
Um, that is normally a step people skip over.
Mm. Yeah, I find it.
Like going back to the audit thing where
Yeah.
so we got to map out how everything's done and where all the data goes. It's like, oh, people don't often realize where data is actually going and passing through. And that's a big part of what we do where, oh, if you're in the US and you manage like financial data, you might need SOC 2 compliance. And if you're doing health information, you need HIPAA compliance. And there might only be one platform that does the thing you want that also has that compliance certification.
Yes. And I think I agree with you. I think that's something that is missed. I think also people forget that if they put information into open source tools like ChatGPT that aren't locked down, that there may be data concerns that happen there. Are you able to describe a bit more about why people shouldn't be putting certain information that might be IP sensitive into open source tools like ChatGPT? That's just one example I know.
Yeah, so I just want to clarify a little bit of terminology. An open source tool generally means the code is open, and ChatGPT is specifically not open source.
Oh, okay.
So like an open source tool, you could self-host, and you would use that to prevent this exact problem.
Mm.
Um, where you would own all the data because you would be hosting it yourself. you would have the servers.
I
Whereas
think,
ChatGPT, you don't have the servers.
yeah.
It is closed source. And in that case, like they will sell you an enterprise plan for how at $2,000 a month or whatever. And then at that plan, they will not use your data for any other purposes. And they have a little on their pro plan, you can hit the button where it says, hey, don't use my data for training. But those are the sorts of things that you need to actually choose and like consciously make those decisions in order to lock your data down.
So it's the opposite way around than I thought it was. That's good to know. Because
yeah, it's OpenAI is closed source. They went the opposite direction of where they started.
No wonder I got confused. See, it's so
Yep.
easy to get these terminologies wrong when they've changed how they originally positioned themselves, and that's what you thought they still were. So thank you for clarifying.
Exactly. So right now, like Facebook, Meta, with their Llama models, is actually the open source leader in most cases.
Interesting.
So like Llama, you can download right off the internet and then you can go host it on your own computer.
I think that's the most important thing for everyone to realize is hosting means owning, which means therefore your data is going to be safer.
Yep.
So I think that's my clear take out there for sure. Thank you for clarifying. So I'm so glad I got you here.
Absolutely.
Now, what is your final tip of advice for someone starting out after they've done all their documentation? What would be your key 3 things that you tell someone to do?
Start with data automation. So it really goes back to getting out of copy paste hell. You want to focus on these things where you're not necessarily losing time to like big thinking and creative work. You're losing the time to little manual tasks because you want to streamline the workflow. Yeah. And then once you've streamlined the workflow, you can go back over and build some more complex systems. But like when we come in, we have a whole team. We can say, oh, we're going to go do this whole thing at once. You're not in that position. And so you need to focus first on the things where you can make small wins and build momentum and smooth out your own workflow. And then you can come back through and be like, oh, well, if I combine this API with this automation and send it through ChatGPT in this way, then that creates this other thing and that saves us 6 hours. That's not apparent right off the bat.
And starting with the data means then you know your data is going to have high quality. Exactly. So then you know anything you build off it should be accurate too.
Saves you a lot of time in the long run.
Oh yeah, I can totally appreciate that. And what would be your next step that you'd do straight after that? So would it be you've sorted out some of your more mundane tasks that you can remove that copy and paste hell? What would be the next ones you'd look at? Would it be focusing on the sales and marketing channels, or would you look more at operations?
So that's a business specific question.
So the business is
really in every case, this is business specific. If we go in and we see, oh, this is where the biggest opportunity is, that's where we're going to focus first. And often that is in some sort of customer focused thing, because that's where we make money from our customers. But sometimes that's, accounting just never has their numbers done on time. And so we're always blind going into the next month. Let's fix accounting so we have some clarity.
And that's where I could see it being very powerful, is helping you do those more complicated forecasts that some businesses may not have the resources or time to do. It could be set up to start with, and then it can just not control it, but it can update it for you so you can actually then do better modeling as well.
Yeah, sure.
There's so many things that you can do once you set up all these no codes and have the data right to start with. I'm really excited. I know you're excited about this, but what excites you most about the ability for no code?
Um, I think there's a lot of people who are intimidated by the idea of writing code, who understand how to communicate product ideas well enough that some machine can build them
Mm,
or that they'll be able to build them themselves. And so we're just going to see so much more software created.
I do. And I think that interface is the key, isn't it? Making it so it's almost like I don't know, using Word that you can more easily find things and it feels natural and not so foreign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, I've got one final question I ask all my guests. What brand, any brand in the world, best represents you and why?
Ooh, I'm going to go with Costco. Great
Nice.
value.
Tell me more. I need to know more.
I think I am a great value buy.
You definitely are. With all your knowledge that you've got and everything that you share, you are amazing.
Thank you.
But I put you more premium than Costco.
I think Costco's pretty high up there, but I understand the premium end of the warehouse market is not the premium of the overall.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do a quick wrap up. So, we've been so lucky today to be able to talk to an absolute expert in no code and automation, how to actually bring it about to business, because he's done it for many businesses and seen the changes himself. So, some of the things that I really got out of today is that it's not, don't be afraid of starting and looking at the journey of no code and how automation can help you or your business, because it really is just stepping back, looking at your business as a whole, documenting all the processes, and seeing where, even if you're thinking about more the Lean Six Sigma type of way of looking at it, where can you get efficiencies? Where can you reduce that wastage? What can you do that can help your team to get more time back in their day to do those tasks that are more meaningful for your business? And start with getting rid of some of those more mundane, boring, repeat processes that are like copy and paste, that you can actually start streamlining them. So, with that documentation of all the processes, you can then look and see where new capacity can be opened up by bringing in some small steps, or if you can, a big transformation project where you can transform all your business at the one time. Now, some of the fantastic benefits of using no code and automation, I love that it can do error detection. Apart from the whole saving time, open capacity, cost efficiencies, all of those fantastic things, it really does help with that error detection in all different facets of your business. So imagine your risk assessment being reduced, or your financial books looking even cleaner because you know there's no errors in there, and it can actually forecast it even easier for you for 5 or 10 years or whatever it might be. That's where the magic can really come in. And as part of your documentation, it also helps you audit what your business is doing and seeing where the opportunities can lie too. Is it the sales area? Is it marketing? Is it HR? Is it finance? That's a business decision. But at the same time, when you're auditing, check out where your data is. Really, it should be in one centralized location, because that's where the key is to truly successful no code and automation, is having a centralized source of data. If you don't have that to start with, it's not going to be the best experience, because you're going to have to keep going back and trying to figure shit out, and that's not good for anyone. So data together, making sure it's one source, will make your life easier. I can't stress that enough. Now, there are many tools out there that you can utilize. Some of the ones we heard about today is Zapier, ChatGPT, Make.com, even Perplexity. These are all different tools that you can look at and see what makes sense. But always look at your data to choose a platform or tools to see what fits your business purpose, and see if you need to host it yourself, or you're happy to be out in a closed source, not an open source. We learned that today, so that it can help you and your business. Now, there are many misconceptions out there about how hard this may be, but really it's about having a mindset similar, or at least open to the thought of how processes are done by engineers or product managers in that process steps, Because if you're open to those type of thoughts or a new way of thinking with your mindset, you're going to be more successful in using these tools, the no-code tools, because of just how it's inherently built from that tech, but made to be user-friendly with a new interface. So anyone can use them, which is fantastic. But if you do have that natural mindset of systems or engineering, you're going to be a little bit more successful. And that's something everyone can learn over time as well, because let's face it, we're always needing to learn new technologies, and this gives us an opportunity to do one that will help everyone in different ways. Now, how can this automation and no code help you and your business? Some stats we heard about is it can actually help you by 5 to 10% every month to open capabilities and capacities. That's huge. That could be a whole new project, a whole new revenue stream, a whole new whatever. It's worth exploring. But remember, automation and no code isn't something that happens overnight. Well, the process might, but they're reaping the rewards over time can take up to 9 to 15 months. So make sure you plan that as well as part of your processing. But if you're starting this from scratch, let's first off get that data right. And let's try and remove all this copy and paste from hell. Start with some of those processes that are manual, tedious, and can be easily streamlined. And then when you add in other chunkier types of programs and projects that are built off that data, you're more likely to have success because the data will be nice and clean, and therefore you won't have that error issue coming through. Have I missed anything, Michael?
I think that's everything. Great summary.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciated it. Is there any final thing that you'd like everyone to remember before you jump off?
Keep automating.
So true. Thank you again, Michael. And don't forget, everyone, you can follow Michael on LinkedIn. If you need a transformation project done with no code and automation, his team is available. So do reach out and let him know. I'll add all his details to the show notes. Don't forget also to add more to marketing to your playlist so you don't miss out on future fabulous guests. More to marketing.